What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Panda here, and today we are talking about the new Fusion Champion. So this is the new Fusion Champion, Hoskarul. I'm gonna say Hoskarul. I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna go with Hoskarul. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So it's got to be right? Probably not. I don't know. But we've got official announcement that we do have an epic fusion coming very shortly in this epic defense barbarian champion. And his kit looks interesting. I'm not sure he's going to be worth going for, but I want to discuss his skills with you guys and give you guys kind of a starter of, do we think he's worth it to go for, right? So first thing is we have an A1 here, attacks one enemy with a 30% chance going to a 40% chance of placing a stun debuff for one turn. This is not a crazy A1, but I do think it's pretty good. If you are newer to the game, having a stun champion like this could be very good for Faction Wars. You do get access to Sill the Drakes, I would say relatively early into the game, definitely before your focus is Faction Wars. So I definitely am not sure if this guy is going to be amazing, but he could be potentially good for you in the early game. If you're able to just get him, pretty simply. We have an A2 here, 4-turn cooldown, books down to a 3-turn cooldown. We have a 50% chance of placing a stun debuff that does go up to a 75% chance, and decreases the turn meter of enemies under stun debuffs by 15%. I'm a little curious how this works. And the reason I'm curious is this if you land stun, you also decrease turn meter, or it does the stun, then checks if they're under stun and decreases the turn meter. If it is the latter, then this could actually be a very strong pairing with Sill the Drakes, because if we go into game and we look at Sill the Drakes, you'll see that she has an A2 that has a chance of placing a stun. Now, her chance is actually quite a bit less, right? It's 20%. That books up to a 35% chance, but it does attack 2 times. So it's possible that in combination with Sill the Drakes, there is a good chance that you get a lot of turn meter control from this guy. So this is why I think he might potentially be good. I'm not positive, but I think he could be potentially good if he's easy to obtain. I think is the important thing, is he has to be relatively easy. If he's going to be a difficult fusion, he's probably not going to be worth it, because we already have Sill. Sill's a pretty hard carry for your Barbarian Faction Wars, so not sure if he's going to be great. But let's keep looking. Sorry about that, had a cough. Unfazed, the A3 is a 6-turn cooldown, books down to a 4-turn cooldown, removes all stun debuffs from all allies, then places a 60% increased defense and a 25% increase res buff on all allies for 2 turns. This actually doesn't feel like a terrible ability. Increased defense is phenomenal. However, with it being a 4-turn cooldown, and it only lasts for 2 turns, it's only up 50% of the time, which does feel kind of bad. Yeah, it does feel kind of bad. And then you also have the increased res, which again, it's still only 50% of the time. I will say, if we go in here, I have actually recently started using Roth Matab in my Faction Wars, because he has this pretty strong skill, in my opinion, of increase resistance and reflect damage. And this only has, I haven't booked him, obviously. He's a 5-turn cooldown, so it's up less than 50% of the time. But with a book, it would be up 50% of the time. But it is the strong increase res. This is the weak increase res, right? So it's a little bit weaker, but again, he's an epic, easier to book, easier to manage. Obviously, he'll be relatively free, to pick up. Rathmatop has been amazing for my faction wars. I think it's mainly been because of this skill. However, I will also say that I feel like this guy could be a weaker version of Rathmatop in the sense that his is a stun, so he doesn't take the damage, which is basically the same as provoke plus block damage, right? It's a little bit different, but it's similar. However, Rathmatop does also have this really, really interesting A1 that's very helpful, and of course has this passive, which is pretty powerful for him as well. So I'm not quite sure. He definitely feels like sort of a mini Rathmatop, an epic version of him. So if you have Rathmatop, probably not an insane champion. One thing I will say that I do like is this passive, though. He's immune to stun debuffs, which is okay, cool. He's immune to stun, that's okay. But increases the damage inflicted by all allies by 15% when attacking enemies under stun. I think that this has some potential really powerful niche abilities for the newer to mid-game players. Now, again, do I think he's worth going for? If you're late game, probably not. If you're mid-game and it's a relatively simple fusion, then yes, I think he'll be worth going for. If you're early game and you have the resources to get him, I think that there's a good chance that he's worth going for. However, the timing of this fusion is also an important thing to think about. We're coming into December, right? This fusion's going to start here in probably, a week, a little less than a week. And that's going to put us going into December, which means that if you use your shards and your resources to get Hoskarol, you may not have those resources for the Christmas fusion, which I have not played during a Christmas fusion, but I do know that the last Christmas fusion was Tatora Rhymehide, which is a phenomenal champion. And from what I've heard, Christmas is typically a time where there are a lot of very good summoning events and very good free rewards. And so because of that, I'm not sure he's going to be worth going for. So my recommendation personally is, I want to wait and see what we have, in terms of what's required for the event, what's required for actually getting all of these fragments. If we can get them relatively easy with very little investments of things such as shard and gems, then I think he might be worth going for the newer to mid-game players. However, because we do have access to Silda Drakes as a free champion, I'm unsure of his actual viability. I think that he would be relatively good in the early game for maybe even clearing dungeons, because a lot of the times the reasons you fail dungeons is because of those waves being so difficult and hitting so hard, and having someone that does stun and also increases the damage you deal to those stunned enemies. He could be a viable sort of support control champion. But really, I think we need to see how difficult the fusion's going to be, and also really what kind of, damage he can do. I mean, maybe he's actually an insane damage dealer. We just don't know. More likely than not, that's not the case. However, I do think that he does have some potential viability pairing up with Silda Drakes, because like I said, Silda Drakes' stun is actually a pretty low chance. It lands pretty often just because it's a 2 times a double hitter, right? You have a good chance of actually landing it because of that. But I think that there is a world where we do see some potential combos of Sil plus this new guy. So we'll have to see. I want to see what the fusion calendar looks like, how difficult those events are going to be. If we continue down the path of increasingly difficult fusions, it's going to be really hard for the free-to-play, even the low spenders, to be able to get these fusions. I've skipped the last several fusions because they just haven't really been worth the effort, right? The last fusion, Ornn, was worth more, than the actual fusion was for most people's accounts. Before that, it was just so much investment into the fusions that it really wasn't worth it to go for them for most people. And I think that if we continue heading in that direction, then these types of fusions are not going to be worth it. So I would say he looks like an interesting champion. I wouldn't be mad if I pulled him from a shard. But I'm unsure of his viability as a fusion champion because we have to see how difficult the fusion is. If the fusion's easy, go for him. If not, don't go for him. I think it's that simple. So let me know what you guys think of the new fusion. I think he's kind of cool looking. I think he's got some potential, but it really is going to depend on the difficulty of the events. So if you guys are going for the fusion, let me know down below in the comments if you're not going for the fusion or if you're waiting for some more info. Let me know down in the comment section down below. If you liked this video and you want to see it more like it, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that we can have the YouTube algorithm praise us. But guys, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.